Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Talk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi, we welcome you to our podcast On Stage with Enterprise Thought Leaders. My name is Kanika Goswami and I'm the managing editor of On.media's 6 B2B enterprise technology publications. One of the sectors that gets very little ink is technology and education. S&P Global has just released a report which is titled AI and Education, Embracing the Destruction. We have an opportunity to speak with Miriam Fernandez. She's a director, AI research specialist, analytical innovation at S&P Global Ratings. And we'd like to speak to her on her observations of this report on the sector and the use of technology in the education sector. In today's discussion, which is titled AI Disruption of Education, Benefits and Challenges, we welcome Miriam Fernandez. Hi, Miriam. It's great to have you on with us on our show today.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be joining. Thank you very much for the invitation.
I really look forward to this conversation. It's not many times that we get to discuss the use of technology in education. And I think the report or whatever I've read of it, it's very insightful. So we should have a very interesting conversation. But before we start, I'd like to know a little about you, Maria. How long have you been with S&P, Google, and what would you rate as a space that you work in? Where have you been all this while and what have you been excelling at?
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, I have been with S&P Global for around 8 years now. And the last year in particular, I've been focusing on artificial intelligence research as part of a team called Analytical Innovation. And because it's a recently created role, as AI has been evolving very, very fast. But one of our purpose was the creation of a research lab. And we have several publications, including the one that you mentioned under spglobal.ai. And our purpose is to basically analyze the opportunities and the risks of AI in three angles. One of them is the technologies, because AI covers many different technologies. Also, the applications in terms of sectors, the sectorial applications. I started my career and my experience during many years in the banking sector. So this is one of the research that we have in there, but also healthcare, real estate, and pharma and other sectors that we're getting to cover as we continue growing the research lab. And then last but not least, considerations around AI governance and regulation. This is also a very important part of the conversation that we're trying to explore more. And because we are by no means experts, we want this to be a conversation with the market, and we invite therefore market participants to try to explore with us what those opportunities and risks are.
That's great to know. So the first question I want to ask you is, what do you see as a bigger impact of adoption of AI in education?
Well, in our research, we call out several opportunities that AI deployment can have in education. And I think it is important to break it down in a timeline. So if you would focus in the longer term, I would say it is the democratization of education that could have more impact for the society globally, because it could have an impact on inequality, particularly in developing economies. But if we focus on today's opportunities, we think it's the augmentation capacity across the entire education ecosystem. And let me explain that with an example. So on one side, you have the teacher. So you could have a teacher in a primary school that, thanks to AI, it's going to be more equipped to adapt to the different student needs, or use AI to run their administrative tasks so that they can spend more time developing new ways of teaching. In our article, for example, we refer to the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which is an education pyramid broken down in layers that go from things like remembering, understanding, to evaluating and creating. And we provided examples of how AI tools could be used in every step in that pyramid to enhance the student learning, to be more effective and to have a better experience. And this is from a teacher's perspective. But if we think about it from a student's perspective, students can also augment their ability to learn by having personalized learning paths or personalized tutors, Or, for example, students that have cognitive or physical disabilities. In this case, AI could enable a more equitable learning experience for them. And finally, if you think about it from an administrative point of view, so all these workers that work in educational institutions on the administrative side, they can also see themselves augmented by AI to gain productivity in tasks that can go from student enrollment to understanding better data analytics on the students, or accounting or regulatory compliance. So again, it's about the human augmentation to complement the human skills in the education sector that we think it's most impactful.
And for everything else, when we use AI, there are going to be risks and challenges. So what do you see as the biggest and the greatest risk of adopting AI in education?
I think that right now, because we're only scratching the surface of what AI can do for us, and at the same time, we're only starting to learn about AI technologies, their opportunities and the risks. As a consequence, one of the biggest risks that we identify in our research is misuse. And in fact, there is a recent survey conducted by our sister company 451 Research that goes around the concerns of generative AI in the education sector. And in that research in particular, 47% of participants flagged misuse as their greatest concern. And while in the short term, when we think about misuse, probably what comes to mind could be a student using AI to cheat on a paper or to do their homework. What we think is that as time goes by, the real risk for generative AI is going to be the potential to undermine the students' capacity to think independently and to be creative. And for that reason, we think it's key that the education methods adapt to incorporate AI literacy and ethical considerations, both to teach the teachers and teach the students about how to use AI responsibly. And obviously, we recognize that doing these things is going to take time. On one side, adapting the curriculums, it's going to take time. In our research, we also found out that it's just very few primary and secondary schools around the world, and most of them private schools, that are focusing on what we consider the skills of the future, skills like critical thinking or research-based education or AI integration precisely into education. And then on the other side, when you think about it from a model development perspective, developing those AI models that are safe for the education sector and that are human-centric and that can mitigate the potential risks of misuse, that is also going to take time. So we think of this as a gradual path.
AI usage is facing questions on ethics in all sectors. So do you see such issues in the education sector? We just spoke about it. There's an uneven distribution of education sector and advancement in technology globally. There will be areas of faster adoption of technology tools that use AI, as in some areas will also show some slower adoption. So what factors do you see influencing the rate of adoption of AI in this sector?
Yeah, so we expect that, of course, AI adoption in education is going to prove uneven within and within countries, between and within countries. And the difference is what we think are going to determine, the factors that are going to determine these differences are investment capacity, so policymakers' priorities in having or not having AI national strategies, but also factors like the existing digital infrastructure, which can include, for example, high-speed access to the internet or AI infrastructure like data centers. And also, very importantly, the access to computer science-related studies. So one of the things that we included in our research was the variable called the percentage of graduates in STEM degrees, but also what the R&D community is doing, and that can be measured, for example, with the level of AI publications that the academic community is doing in a specific country. And based on the global study that we did covering 5 years of data around the world on tertiary education, using these factors, we found out that there were countries that were better equipped, for example, Singapore, Germany, appear to be best equipped to support AI in education. I think another thing that I would like to mention is that when you look ahead and you consider the recent advancements in open source, like what we have been seeing, for example, with the case of DeepSeek, in this type of models, we think that this democratization of AI access is going to have positive implications, and it's going to equip the academic community that I was talking about and the researchers to do more with less investments. And this is going to be a positive thing for the future.
So we just spoke about the risks that AI adoption presents in the education sector. Do you think that AI regulatory laws will help to meet the challenges that will be faced because of this adoption?
I think that to some extent, yes, but regulations on AI, again, are different across jurisdictions. Europe is advancing, for example, much faster than the US on the AI regulatory field. And in a few months, we're going to see increasing difference on regulation of large frontier models. And in the education sector in particular, because of the nature of the institutional end user, that being schools and universities and so on, I think that some of the challenges could be more manageable to tackle with regulation, particularly those around human oversight, safety, reliability, responsible use. We are already seeing closer regulatory supervision, both in Europe, in the US, and in other places of the world, around things like, for example, when it comes to admission processes or surveillance, student surveillance, or evaluating student results. This is increasingly becoming regulated. And then we also think that there are specific techniques you might become familiar with, like, for example, retrieval augmented generation, that can ensure that the content that the model is retrieving when providing an answer is coming from a specific curriculum that is chosen by the educator, by the institution, and therefore also mitigating certain risks. And then maybe last but not least, I think as we move towards smaller models, more domain-specific models, those should also be more manageable to govern and to regulate, and that should also contribute to the difficult challenge that I think policymakers and regulators have on their plates right now.
My last question is about the next level of education, not K-12. We're talking about skill certifications. So do you think the adoption of AI will be a step up for the professional skill sectors as well?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I find myself within that subsegment, so I can consider myself a guinea pig when thinking about this. But I think AI offers multiple opportunities in this subsegment, and it can be very useful, particularly for cognitive tasks. And we expect this to be a gradual and incremental process, but for example, we expect that AI can improve with continuous upskilling at work, or to enhance high-value capabilities by automating tasks that are more repetitive, and then therefore allowing for professionals to spend more time in problem solving or in innovation, or dedicating themselves to develop emotional intelligence, which is going to gain more relevance in the future. And something that I found fascinating, and it came across in a podcast that we were discussing in one of our episodes that we have, is around the possibility of AI to concentrate, let's say, 20, 30 years of experience, of human experience. That's something that is very specific to a role. You concentrate that in AI, and you can use it to train and mentor junior employees. We're seeing that starting to happen in sectors very specific, like maybe engineering roles, or in the real estate sector, in the like more wholesale manufacturing roles, something that requires very specific knowledge, and therefore that knowledge isn't lost when, for example, talent goes away, and it can be used to train the more junior generations. But maybe just to conclude, I would say that with all of this, what we also think is very relevant is to consider the enterprise mindset as a condition to get this right. And what I mean by enterprise mindset is whether the management team at companies is prioritizing having AI strategies, having the governance frameworks in place, and thinking how they can adapt their employees' skills to co-live in a future of enable, AI tools where they will co-live and they will therefore improve and advance their capabilities together. We have published, my colleagues Sudeep Kesh, Nathan Hunt, and Shuhan have published recently a report on AI in labor that explores some of these ideas more in detail, but ultimately it goes around how AI is going to enable transformative changes towards collaborative intelligence, where humans and AI work together.
I actually wanted to know if it's going to make a big dent on the STEM education kind of, methodologies. But from what you are saying, it will make a dent on STEM as well, because those are all the areas which will be impacted and maybe it become better over time with the use of AI tools.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we explore in that particular research that I was mentioning is how we could see different types of impacts in the labor market, from maybe some jobs that will transform and others that will be augmented, and other jobs that will completely appear new that don't exist now. We have seen that in the past with the Excel spreadsheet many years ago. And I think we are probably about to see that happening again.
Right. So this is the end of my questions, Miriam, and I really thank you for the time and the insights that you've shared. It's not very often that we have a proper analyst with us who can actually give us the confidence of how things are working, how things are expected to work. Thanks for your time, Miriam. It was great talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.